Let's talk fight science. Let me introduce the topics we're going to be talking about today. One, running. How would I define running? And I say I because there's no universal definition for these types of terms, but I would define running as the purposeful usage of your legs and feet to consistently escape danger. This is the important part, with no intent of doing damage as a result of that new position. So you're trying to reposition yourself, but you're not intending to do damage with that new position. Basically, you're just trying to escape and run away. So your only goal is to escape, and you have no real desire to do damage to your opponent. This is distinctly different from jumping back or laterally moving for a couple of seconds to reposition, where you can defend yourself better or hurt your opponent more effectively. Running is a consistent pattern of behavior in a fight. It's not just avoiding damage, but not taking the risk to do any as well. Okay. Cutting off the ring is a little bit more self-explanatory, either using your feet or punches to position yourself in a way that stops your opponent from going the direction they want to go, therefore cutting off the path they initially vied for. We're going to talk about those two things, and we're going to talk about scoring. Let's get into it. I'll be looking at the 12th round, and we'll go from there. So looking at the start of the 12th round, you have Jermaine. He's standing in front of him a little bit to get him into range where he can throw the jab. And neither of these jabs are really intending to land. What they're really doing is he's waiting. He's trying to bait Teofimo to come into range. And when Teofimo tries to step into range, he's there to try and counter him. And he's trying to get out of range, and he gets caught right there. So when it comes to scoring, I would say this is a pretty even exchange. No. Teofimo wins this exchange because his left hook has a better impact. It's a more clean punch, hard and clean punches. The emphasis of scoring on how I score is the hard and clean punches part. All that other stuff is too subjective and not worth my time. When it comes to scoring, I look at how many hard and clean punches are you avoiding, or really how many are you taking and how many are you giving. And then the question is, okay, is this running? No, I don't think it's running because he's just repositioning. And then you see he stops once he's in a better position, and he's going to stand in front of him and look for opportunities. As long as they're looking for opportunities of offense, for offense, I'm like, okay, he's not just trying to escape. But then immediately after, when Teofimo starts closing the distance, he tries to escape again. So at that point, maybe I can start calling it running, but I need to establish a pattern. I need to see if he's going to keep doing this. And then based off the context, I can try and make the decision, okay, when he finally sees an opening, how is he responding? Is he just trying to escape, or is he trying to counter? It looks like he's trying to counter. So it looked like all of that lateral movement was to try and bring out an attack from Teofimo so he could counter that attack. So it looked like a drawn out bunch of movement just to get an opportunity. And I think he gets the better of that exchange because he blocks this left. And he the bottom of his neck and a little bit of his chin gets grazed by that right, and he lands a right hook. So I'll say that actually that's a pretty even exchange. At a certain point, I think it will be fine to call some of this running, and here's why. So when he does stop and plant, what is he trying to do? I think there's a balance between, okay, let me find a quick counter here and there versus kind of playing a game of tag, where the only time I stop is just to touch you and get out the way. And that's, while yeah, that's technically boxing, the distinction I think between a runner and somebody who's actually just trying to move around to set up a big punch is it a hard and clean punch? Meaning, are they playing tag? Are they just tapping and moving? I think that's a runner. And sometimes I think Ortiz was behaving like that, but I think at times he was trying to throw some harder punches. And so in some situations, I think it's fair to call him a runner if he's just there to like tap and probe and stuff like that, versus if he's trying to sit there and really trying to hurt somebody. I think that's where the difference between a runner and somebody who's trying to set up something comes into play. Oftentimes when we talk about cutting off the ring, it's what you do to chase down your opponent and corner them. But I think just as important, if not more, when it comes to cutting off the ring, is about what you do once you've cornered them, right? So Teofimo is a very single punch type of guy. He doesn't throw multiple punch combinations. He might every now and then, but for the most part, he's like, he'll throw a cross or a left hook, stuff like that, one punch at a time. And so what that means is when he has Ortiz cornered right here, Ortiz will go off with a little bit of offense to get Teofimo defensive. Now that Teofimo's defensive, is the opportunities, the windows for escape are there for Ortiz. Where those windows would close is if Teofimo was more proactive with his offense and really throwing a variety of punches all at once. So if he throws a cross, you follow up with a left hook. So now if you want to go left, you have to go through that obstacle, and that's going to slow down Ortiz from constantly shifting, taking angles after or during with exchanges. And this is part of the issue. This is what a lot of people, like in the comments, people were talking about, okay, cutting off the ring is a lost art. And for the most part, I probably agree. But this is the issue. Your opponent's moving and you're just following them, right? Michael Myers, just walk them down. It's like, no, you gotta go to where they're headed. If you think he's headed left, go there, go to the left, or throw a left hook, stuff like that. There's options. Like, this is pretty decent from Teofimo, using his jab to cut off that exit a little bit, at least try and force him to the right. And when he gets him circling right, he then can try and throw something through that guard to try and catch him off guard, kind of a shovel hook. That's an example of at least cutting off the ring with punches. But then here's an example of him doing it unsuccessfully with punches, where he just goes straight in. If Ortiz is moving laterally, you're not going to catch him by going straight in. You got to catch him by going laterally. And this is an interesting example of intent, right? So after he escapes that bit of offense, what does he do? He closes the distance. He could keep backing up, circling, but he closes the distance. And that's because it's the 12th round where they want to put it all on the line in the last 10 seconds. And so he closes the distance, and he's even working in the clinch. He's doing a bunch of stuff that he could have been doing more of throughout the fight. And hopefully you notice I'm giving critiques to both of them. I think Ortiz could have done more. He could have been more aggressive with his intent and try to hurt Teofimo more, try to throw more combinations at least. And I think Teofimo could have done more skillfully to cut off the ring with his feet and with punches. So I think, but first of all, if it takes two people to make a fight entertaining, it definitely takes two people to make a fight boring. And we could talk more about scoring in the future, but I have some scoring videos from the past. We'll leave it like this. Styles make fights. It doesn't necessarily mean that styles make the outcome of the fight. Rather, styles make the style of a fight. In this case, a boring one. It's boring because one person wants to counter and the other person wants to counter. But in order for counters to happen, someone has to initiate. Successfully initiate, particularly because Teofimo was trying to initiate, but he wasn't successful with a lot of his offensive initiations, meaning there weren't a lot of windows open for either man. Ortiz was obviously on the back foot, and Lopez was struggling to find Ortiz on his front foot, which he has a history of, particularly against Southpaw, Sandor, Martin, a little bit of Lomachenko, stuff like that. So you have a game where one man's unsuccessfully chasing another, and the other man isn't really taking too many risks. And so not a lot of real offense is being displayed in that type of situation. Defense is cool, but it's only cool when it's mixed with great offense. There's a lot of stuff I could talk about in this type of realm of subjects and discussions, and maybe even some more on this fight, but I think we'll keep it there for now. Fight Scientists, I will talk to y'all soon. Immortality Serum out.